Hey, and we are back with another speaker. And right now it is Daniel with a company called NOVOS. And Daniel's the head of their SEO, and we'll talk about they've analyzed hundreds of e-commerce sites and they're going to share with us their findings.
Thank you very much. Yeah, my name is Daniel. I'm head of SEO at eCom specialist SEO agency NOVOS. And as specialists in e-commerce, we have worked on hundreds of different e-com sites across a whole range of niches. And in our time, we have seen a lot of crazy stuff. This particular incident had me pulling my hair out in the evening. But today, I'm not going to talk about the one-offs. I'm going to focus on the trends we've seen, specifically the technical trends we've seen through analyzing and working with hundreds of different e-com brands before moving on to the most effective strategies to get things implemented. Because after all, even the best SEO tactic in the world means nothing unless we can get it implemented on the site. So diving straight into the tech side of things, filters. Now, around 30% of the sites that we analyzed are being massively bloated by filter URLs. An example here of a Magento 2 website was making search engines crawl over 57 times as many pages as it needed. So it had about 2,000 category pages, but because of filter parameter URLs being generated, over 100,000 were being crawled. Now, obviously, this isn't good for search engines. They're having to crawl through far more URLs than are necessary, which is taking the attention away from the URLs we want to be ranking. So this really needs to be controlled. It also opens up the potential for incorrect URLs to be ranking in the search engine results. So again, not good for customers. The way to do this, the most robust way we find is to use robots.txt to block parameter strings that are being generated from filters. But you can also look to use link level no follows or remove the links from the HTML altogether by using Ajax or something like that. Remember, SEO is like a faulty dishwasher. Always check your filters. Moving on to Breadcrumbs, and only about a quarter of the sites that we've analyzed were using Breadcrumbs optimally. This is usually what we see from Breadcrumbs on product pages. A really short, simple breadcrumb that goes home and straight to the product. But actually, this breadcrumb isn't useful for anyone. It's not good for customers if they don't want the product they're on, but they want to browse similar products. They can't easily access the category. And it's not good for search engines. It doesn't give any information about the context of the product page. So this is what we recommend. We change it to having the full category and subcategory hierarchy within the breadcrumb. If you're a customer, you can easily navigate up to browse a wider set of products if you don't like the one you're on. And as a search engine, you're getting loads of information about the context of the product, where it sits within the site, and how your site's structured. Let's look at some more internal linking because it is such a powerful tool we found. The over-reliance of canonical URLs. So this is really common on e-commerce sites because one product can sit in several different categories. And depending on your setup, this means one product can have several different URLs that contain the category within it. This is fine for sort of one or two products. But if you've got hundreds, thousands of products, you could be generating loads and loads of additional URLs for search engines to be crawling, which we don't necessarily want. It also puts reliance on canonicals to pass authority, when actually we want to, again, rely on the more robust internal linking to boost the pages that we want to be ranking, which is why we generally opt for a simple product URL approach, which is the top example here. This is fairly easy to change in most e-com CMS. Shopify, it just requires a slight tweak of the liquid files, but again, it's something we would definitely recommend. Links to subcategories we recommend for about 40% of sites, and like Breadcrumbs, this is really good to help search engines understand the hierarchy of a site, but it also helps customers to refine their product search, similar to filters, but giving you that SEO benefit as well. With anything like this, we always want to think about the customer first. We know search engines, particularly Google, are heading that way, but as an e-com website, we want to make sure the customers first. We're getting their intent at the heart of everything we do. And finally, linking to product attributes. Now, we recommend this about 10% of the time. The reason we recommend it less frequently than some of the other things is simply because it does require a specific product range. You want your product attributes to be categories within your site as well. So for the one we've got here, some of the categories we've got on the site are the brand, the country, the region it's from, which exist as categories. Again, Really useful for search engines to understand the context of the product and to understand how everything's situated within the site. And again, good for customers if they want to browse a related topic to the product. Moving on to JavaScript. Now, JavaScript is great for a lot of reasons, but just because you can use it doesn't mean you should. About 5% of the time, we see sites with major JavaScript errors. And by major JavaScript errors, we mean a huge reliance on client-side rendering, which means search engines can't crawl, can't see their content at all. So we're going to play every SEO's favorite party game, pin the server-side rendering on the GA graph. This is a client we were working with. We implemented server-side rendering on their product pages around the end of May. And what we saw off the back of this was Google could then understand their site really easily, could actually see their pages. Before, when it was client-side rendered, they couldn't. And we saw organic traffic shoot up, and organic revenue did the same. But it's not just if you're client-side rendered that you want to pay close attention to JavaScript. About a quarter of the sites we analysed had minor JavaScript errors. And these were things like differences between the HTML and the rendered domain object model. A common one on Shopify is having collection pages which use apps to pull through the products, but they don't insert the links to the products within the HTML. So without JavaScript being rendered, you don't get any product links on the page. Google can now render JavaScript, but we are giving it additional things to consider when really we want to make sure we're making it as easy as possible for Google to understand the site. Having this reliance on rendering can also be problematic because rendering is a lot more resource intensive. And so we're making it really difficult for Google to understand the site, making it do a lot of extra work, when actually we should be doing the opposite and making it as easy as possible for Google and search engines to understand everything. Moving on to the most effective strategies we found to get things implemented. Now, I found that out the other day. This is absolutely true. Most people do not care about canonicals, and I was shocked to hear it. But what it means is we need to focus on the overall strategy rather than the individual tactics. Most people can't even pronounce canonicals, and different sites will have different priorities and different strategies. Big legacy sites, they're likely to have a lot of tech debt. So we might want to put more of our focus as SEOs onto the technical side of things. They're likely to have a lot of pre-existing content. So we might want to look to optimize content, but we probably don't want to be putting a lot of emphasis on creating content. In terms of digital PR, they're likely to have a big backlink profile. And so we don't want to put too much resource into building that. We know it's already there and probably won't be impacting their ability to rank. Compare this to new sites. They're likely to have not that many tech issues if they're fairly new, but they do need to build their external expertise. So we want to put a lot of emphasis on content, and they want to build their external authority through link building and digital PR. Something implemented is better than nothing implemented. Picture the scene. I've been here loads of times. You spent days upon days on an audit. You've put together a massive recommendation list, and you've shunned your friends and family to produce it. And a client comes to you and says, we've got limited dev resource, so what's the priority here? Well, how can we avoid this? How can we make recommendations easier to digest? What we use at NOVOS is the ICE metric. So impact, confidence, effort. We score each metric 1 to 5, and we use this to prioritize the tactics we want to get implemented. If you have high impact, high confidence, and low effort, these are your quick wins, things you want to get out the door straight away. If you have high impact, high confidence, and high effort, these require a bit more dev resource, but they're your core projects you really want the devs to be focusing on for a longer period of time. We also like to group projects. We find this aligns with how dev works and dev sprints, and also helps clients to really understand the overall strategy and how we've combined similar tactics in one. So to summarize things, as we get to the end of this 10 minutes, there are almost always high value tech opportunities to be implemented based on our analysis of over 100 eCom websites. And when you provide your recommendations, you really want to prioritize in line with your clients and how your dev teams work via things like the ICE metric and grouping similar tech tactics. So thank you very much. Thanks for having me. If you have any questions, hit me up on Twitter. And yeah, it's been great to be here.
Daniel, I love the structure that you brought in here. We do have a couple of very interesting questions that I wanted you to address, but we are out of time. So would you mind joining the next session? And then I'll post those questions in the chat. And if you have some time, you can answer those. Everyone, I'll see you in the next session. Daniel, thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.